Love to striper fish, dogfish, but fluking has always been my love. Fished a lot of tournaments, did really, really well in the tournaments, to the point that I really couldn't take guys on charters to do any of my practicing because I would go on tournament day and find guys fishing all of the better spots where I would have stop. So I started to only run striped bass and tog charters. There's lots of different ways to catch fluke. I'm looking to catch big fluke every trip. I don't really target fluke to catch limits anymore, even though we catch limits on a super regular basis, okay? To me, to catch 3 fish, which is our current limit in New Jersey, kind of a joke, okay? We're used to catching limits by 8 o'clock when the fish was 8 fish limit. We target big fish all year. You're gonna catch plenty of nice fish, anywhere, even shorts, from 14 inches to, you know, your typical shorts, you know, to 17 and 7/8. But you're going to catch a lot of keepers doing this, but you're also going to catch more quality fish. There's lots of ways to catch fluke. Some guys are going to tell you they want to cast up from the boat. Some guys are going to tell you they want to cast down from the boat. Some guys will say you have to only be using a 2-ounce jig or you're not going to catch fish because of the profile. Some guys are going to tell you, well, you can fish 10-ounce jigs, and those guys will tell you that you're crazy. But if you've been in either one of those instances, whatever works for you gives you a lot of confidence. And if you have confidence, it really helps. I'm looking to catch fish like this all the time. The fish on the left was 10-4, the other one's 10-14. That was on the same trip. Some guys will say you're holding them out. Well, I just want you to see I'm not holding the fish out. All right? This is a live photo. I can't hold them any closer to my body. My arm doesn't bend somewhere else, all right? Most of my pictures you'll see, we don't hold the fish out. It kills me when I see a 2-pounder held in front of the camera like this, trying to make it look bigger. Fish is a fish, and guess, you know what? Just be proud of whatever you happen to catch, all right? I'm a bucktails and gulp guy, all right? There was a lot of time and investment made by this individual. This is Aaron Waver from Berkeley. This is the gulp scientist that invented gulp. I've had him on my boat. This picture is on my boat. Doing prototypes on some new lures that he came out with, different bait styles to give him a try. And we had some issues with, which everybody has had, with some of the baits being a little on the soft side. He wanted to see that in person because when they're testing this stuff in the tank, it's real life conditions for them to eat, but it's really not real life conditions on what happens when you're drifting away from the fish and he's laying back down in the sand and how they were tearing baits and stuff like that. They wanted to believe at that time that baits were getting bit in half. That's not the case. The baits were tearing, okay? So he invested quite a bit of time down here over a weekend out there fishing. Common baits that everybody seems to fish: curly tail grub, swimming mullet. This is a nemesis. Paddle tail shad, which is why he was on that particular trip. One of the newest baits, turbo shrimp. And this is another bait that's similar to a sand eel. It's almost like a Senko cut in half kind of body style, called the dragon's tail, and then a jerk shad. So, and a nemesis prawn. This is another brand new bait. So now guys ask me, do you have to fish all these baits? You don't. But you're gonna find success changes with certain baits. If you've got a moderate drift, nothing is gonna outfish the grub. The grub requires just, you're looking for that 0.7 to 1.2, and it's got a nice sleeping action. It gives them a lot of action for them to want to eat the bait. If it's a real fast drift, you're going to find that this bait, the swimming mullet, is going to work a little bit better, especially if you're fishing the bigger baits in a 5 or a 6 inch. This tail takes a lot more vibration, and it can go with a little bit faster speed on those days when the drift is really flying. A lot of guys don't fish this. On a slow day, I'll fish this instead of a grub, especially on a teaser. This bait, we found out from walleye fishing with it, that in the coldest, slowest, deadest water, when the other tails won't even vibrate at all in the river current, these tails were jumping all over the place. If it's a moderate drift, they're no good because they're too whippy. But you get that slow drift where you're going, man, I'm not going fast enough. I'm only going 0.4, 0.5. I'm just not getting hits. If you change to this bait, I think you'll get a lot more hits on it. Those are pretty much my mainstay. I fish the paddle tail a little bit if we're close to the beach where they're on mullet. It gives them a profile of what they've kind of been eating. Most of the times we're mimicking sand eels or squid, which is the major thing that they're eating in the ocean. When they're on mantis shrimp, this new turbo shrimp, in a 5-inch, they make it in a 3 or 4 and a 5. I only fish it in a 5. I want a big offering because a lot of people think big fluke are lazy. They're not lazy. They only want to eat once every 2-3 days. They don't want to chase peanut bunker if they don't have to recklessly to get a meal by chasing things 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So I always use a bigger offering. That turbo shrimp is a real good teaser. Jerk tail shad can be real good at times. Bucktails, lots of different variety out there. Berkeley has this fusion bucktail that's tied on front eye and a back eye. If you're the kind of guy that likes casting out and working it back, it's nice to have a front eye because it comes back through the water more natural. If you're trying to fish vertical, which is what I pretty much promote, then the top eye is better. But they come in all different kinds. You have ball jigs with real bucktail hair, ball jigs without, which a lot of times if you've got a drift and say, I try to keep the line as vertical to the boat as I can because it's the best presentation for it to be natural for how I'm going to show you how we fish. But if you're scoping out more than you want, and you don't want to go to a heavier bucktail, if you go to a bucktail that doesn't have all that extra dressing on it, this bucktail you can fish a 5 where it might take you a 6 or an 8 to fish one that has heavy hair on it or the silicone. But we fish all different styles. We fish swing hooks, we fish standard hooks. I'm a proponent of big hooks. I ask a guy, what size hook do you use on your teaser? I use a 1/0 or a 3/0. I'm an 8/0 guy. 6/0 to an 8/0 with a bait holder hook if I'm using a bait holder hook. And they have no problem getting that in their mouths. Okay, they have big mouths. That's only a 3-pound fish. That's a 6-ounce bucktail with a 6-inch gulp swallowed with an 8/0 hook. All right, they have no problem. Their mouth really expands when they're going to hit a bait. Don't be afraid to fish a big hook. Big hook does a couple of things for you. It allows the bait to stay straighter. You're not trying to pull the bait down inside so that if this was the head, when you're coming in fast current, the head isn't moving back and forth. It keeps the bait straight. The straighter this is, the less tangles you're going to get. All right. So when you rig this, when you're used to rigging a lot of them, you can take your line and say, okay, and you know where you want the point to come out. Let's just say you're not that guy, or you're just having a hard time. If you lay your hook on the bait and you say, oh, I want that to come out here, and you take your hook point and you push it in about 1/4 of an inch and you turn it towards the head. Okay? Now when you rig that bait and it hits that track line, okay, it'll come out that spot and allows you to keep your bait straight. It really makes it simple, okay? The straighter this is, the less twist you're going to get. I'm asked what weight line I use. I use 20-pound braid with either a 50 or a 60-pound 12-foot drop shot or top shot. And then the line that I use going to my lure is also that same thing. It's usually anywhere from 18 to 30 inches, depending on the speed and the current, of the same thing. Guys go, oh my God, you don't need 50 pound to catch fluke. If you want less twists, a good natural flow, and you're fishing around rough stuff that has a chance of getting nicked, you want to fish 50 pound. I have guys on a boat, they'll want to fish 20 or 30, and they've got helicopters all day long. And it might not be that they rigged the bait wrong. It just might be that the last fish that bit pulled the bait down, right? And now he's hoping for that hit to come back, because if you miss a fish and you drop back and you act like you're hurt, most times they're gonna come and they're gonna eat it again. They can't stand that they lost that bait. If they ate it the first time, they're gonna eat it again as long as they can catch it. Sometimes it takes just letting 10 foot of line go, just let that thing go limp and then work it back real quick to the boat and get it back to a vertical presentation. Small fish have no problem eating an 8-0 hook. That fish that this picture is on, you can see he's hooked solid through his mouth, 6-inch grub. That fish isn't 14 inches. I want to catch 14-inch fish, but he had no problem putting it in his mouth. So don't be afraid to fish big. 10-pound fish, lazy. I don't really believe that. I believe that they just want to fish when the right thing comes fast. That fish had a 9-inch porgy in his stomach. He only had to eat one time. We've been fortunate to catch lots and lots and lots of big fish. Every once in a while, they'll have a mantis shrimp or a crab or something small in them. Little fish will have them in their stomach all the time. These fish have something substantial, a whole fish, big fish, 4 or 5 big fish, 4 or 5 big squid. He's only going to eat when it's good for him. He wants a meal when he's going to take that effort. Bucktail and fluke would gulp, works on all flatfish. This is in Alaska. We fish for halibut. We asked if we could bucktail. And the guy said, "You're not going to eat a bucktail." We caught hundreds of halibut in 2 different trips up there. You know, we fished up there 14 days. That's this 6-inch bucktail with a 6-inch gulp. Now they made the 8-inch gulp because I begged them to make it for up there, to have her up there. When they miss a bait, when they come back, they eat it with such a vengeance you're afraid to hold the rod. And it works. That's a 6-inch swimming mullet on the back of this exact same bucktail. So the way I tie my rig, that I like to fish the most, there's many variations of this. Some guys like tying a dropper or a teaser right here, let's say 12 to 18 inches high, with just a dropper and a hook. I don't like doing that, and I'll tell you why. In my opinion, when you have your teaser tied right above here, these 2 baits, number one, are relatively close. It does stimulate a prey type environment, but I believe that this deadens what you're feeling, what's going on with your bucktail a little bit. When a fish hits a bucktail, you better be slamming the hook right then and there. Otherwise, he knows something's not right. Just because of a little bit of extra weight, you want to be setting that hook immediately. And he's going to have this whole bucktail in his mouth. When they eat this, it's very rarely that they eat the back half of the bait. They eat the middle of the bait where he's going to get hooked. So what I do is I fish anywhere from an 18-inch to a 30-inch loop off of this. All right? The way you put it on is what this picture shows. It's called a handshake knot. So you have your dropper, and of course everything will tangle up on me. Just put these in so that I thought it'd be easier to see. It's probably going to be easier to see on the picture. But what you do is this is your line going back. This is your line going back to your main line. You put the loop over top of the orange line. Put your dropper loop, your surgeon's loop that's going to your teaser bait over top of it. And then you drop the hook through the orange line, not through the green line. A lot of people will take it and they pull the green through itself, like you would do if you were doing a dog leash to make the handle on a dog leash. And what that does is it makes a lot of uneven areas that'll start to pull on the line. If you catch a big fish on that and he's got one side tighter than the other, he'll burn that line off. Also causes a lot of line twist. So when you do it this way, you'll find that you don't get a lot of line twist. And that's all you don't want to be undoing tangles all day long. All it does is deduct from your fishing time, just like I'm trying to undo the sample line. So I have these, and I'll show you guys if anybody needs to see it in person how that's done. But it's very simple. You're just putting this loop over top of the orange, and then the hook gets pulled through here. I'm just going to let the pictures just roll. I don't know why they put this stupid music on the slideshow. It's not supposed to play when you do that. You gotta be kidding. I guess their stuff won't let me take that out. Sorry, guys.
Turn the volume down.
When I turn the volume down, it's not doing anything. It's playing like a saved file. All right, so what we're looking at, you're gonna drop down, you're gonna use whatever jig it takes to land on the bottom, stay on the bottom. You want that to be vertical. I don't want it to be way out here, because when you do, with resistance to the water, it's gonna turn the bucktail on an angle, and it's not gonna be as easy to hook. I can't believe that when you walk. That's gonna be volume controls won't even work. It doesn't make any sense. Is there a way to turn it off on this? All right, so you're gonna drop down to the bottom. You're gonna feel the bottom, right? And I don't want to drag this on the bottom. If you drag it on the bottom, you're gonna be snagging like crazy. If you're only catching fish on your teaser rig, it means that the bucktail's staying too low. The fish isn't seeing it, he's got to be up in the water column. So what I do is I'm dropping this down. If you envision, God, I can't handle that. If you envision the way you've seen fish feed in a fish tank. They swim up, then they come back and they touch the bottom. They swim up, and they go back down to the bottom. That's the way you want this bait to work. You're gonna get way more hits if this bait is 12 to say 14 inches off the bottom than if you're down here, because the fish's eyes are on top of his head. He's trying to see what he wants to eat, okay? And then having that other rig comes off the back in 30 inches, you'll feel the difference in the hit when they hit the teaser, because it's a spongier hit, and being it's drifting back there, you feel every single thing that your bucktail is doing. You can feel that when it's touching the ground and when it's not. The more vertical you are, when you get the hit, when you slip straight up, you're gonna drive that hook, you're gonna get it in, with the bigger hook, you're gonna get it into the fattier part of their mouth, up here and here where the hard bone is. When you do that, they're not coming off. You hook the fish, you get them hooked up, right? You'll see a lot of guys, the rod will really start to pulse. They go, oh, this is a big fish, this is a big fish. That's mistake number one. Don't tell anybody you got big fish on. Because the instant that you start thinking and you take any pressure off him at all, he's gonna spit the hook. I'm gonna bet 8 out of 10 times. You can't hesitate. You want to keep working that fish and don't pump and reel. Keep the rod parallel to the water, let the rod tip go down in the water, and just take your time and just reel real nice and slow. If that fish knows he's in a fight, he's gonna win the fight more often than he's not. He'll rip his head off trying to get away from you. You wanna just take your time and just reel nice and slow. Try to make him not know that he's in a fight. What's gonna happen is he's gonna start to drift. And just like everybody has seen when they dead stick a bait, they'll go, boy, that rod never bent over. There's been a fish on there for 10 minutes. Because he's just swimming. Because he's just being coaxed along. It's no different than if we were walking down the hallway and I was walking next to you and you're just kind of taking my lead. We're walking down. You're just gonna follow me nonchalant. But if I grab you by the neck or your shoulders and I go, we're going this way, you're gonna fight. You don't want him to know he's in a fight. You want to catch big fish, you got to take your time and go real nice and slow. The guys on your boat, at this point, they don't hear you talking, they see your rod tips in the water, somebody should know to get a net. All right? They come over to get a net. Now you want to get this fish in the net as effortlessly as can be. Everybody has seen videos of the guy that got lucky that gets a big fish swatted 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I guarantee you there's 200 fish that happened to that made it off the first time that they saw the net going. You want this guy to gently have the net in the water, not to be swiping at it. As he's got the net in the water, you want to lift your rod tip over and just slide that fish into the net. And then that guy has got to lift the net straight up in the air. And that fish is caught. And when they get caught that way, they explode in that net, that it's probably going to take you 5 minutes to get him out of the net because he doesn't know what happened. But instead of that violent reaction of him being able to pull your line, possibly pull the hook, rip the hook, break your line, break a knot, all that action's in the net, and who cares how long it takes you to take him out. But it's crazy how bad they'll wreck a net when they don't know that it was going to happen. That's pretty much the example for catching a big fish. So the easiest part now is answering questions, because then I can go more into depth of how you guys are thinking and what you're looking to get out of this seminar.
Are fishing light going and the current's picking up? Would you go straight to heavier, or would you just let it keep getting out?
No, I don't like a scoped out bait for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm fishing really, really rough rubble most times. Big fish aren't laying in the sand unless you go to Nantucket or Rhode Island. That's a whole different fishery up there because you're fishing sandy bottom where you're never going to lose a bucktail. Where we're fishing in Jersey, if you're not losing bucktails, you're not fishing the roughest stuff where these big fish like to live. The further it gets away from you, if it gets stuck, you're not getting it out because it's wedged underneath a rock this way. And the other thing is when it's out here, if you have that bait out there on an angle and you're bouncing it, you have no idea if you're 6 inches off the bottom, 10 inches off the bottom, scoped out 2 foot off the bottom. But when you're here and you've got this bait, I like to have my bait that it's just touching the bottom with the rod tip going towards the water. So that when I lift my rod tip up, I know if I'm a foot off the water, I know where I am at all times. Because that maintained presentation that you're trying to mimic something that's alive swimming down there on a wreck, so that they think, hey, it's food. I want to eat that. When you're scoped out there like that and the bait turns like this, it's really hard to get a good hook set, all right? And you have no idea where it is down on the bottom as far as how high you are. You could be dragging it through the sand and think that you're not. You could actually be 4 foot above, and it feels, everybody goes, oh yeah, I'm right just above the bottom, and then they drop some line back and they go, holy shit, I just dropped back 4 foot. And I just went past the whole best part of the wreck and I was 4 foot too high. So I'd rather have it straight up and down and use a heavy bait. The guys that'll tell you you can fish a 2-ounce bait all day long, they don't fish where we fish, where the current is fast, the drift is fast. And fishing different areas, it teaches you a couple other things. In New Jersey, where we fish, most of the time we're looking for a 0.8 to a 1.2 drift. And a lot of times when it would get faster than that, you either go chase a spot where the tide is less, maybe a little bit less wind, maybe you're using something as a current break, whatever. But inshore, offshore, that current speed changes. So you learn fishing spots that, hey, I can only fish this the middle of the tide, I can fish this the beginning of the tide, I can fish this the end of the tide, and you move accordingly. So that you're fishing straight up and down. I don't like fishing a bucktail heavier than 8 if I can help it, but I will fish to 10 if I need to. If it gets faster than that, and I really want to know I'm on the bottom, I'll go to a 10-ounce sinker with that same 30-inch line, so that I know that I'm guaranteeing that my presentation is 18 inches off the bottom. Another important thing is, especially for guys that want to catch fish on short little drifty areas, everybody on the boat has to work as a machine. One of the things that a friend of mine that's a diver taught me, I'm catching a couple of shorts here, and I bang a 10 right here. I got lucky hitting this fish on the head, catching this fish, because he's not the only 10-pounder here. He said there's never one big fish amongst a bunch of little fish. He said there's going to be a half dozen, 10, there might be 30 big fish there. He said they go down, when they go down to dive, they'll watch, and they'll see a fish come up. They'll see another fish come up, and they'll say, well, that was a 4-pound fish, that was a big fish. We're going to go after that big fish, and they would go get him, diving with a knife, right? And they would say, well, that was the only big fish on the wreck. And then by mistake, one time they were down there, sitting down there, and they were watching, and they knew that they had a fish there, and a school of bait fish came past. And 30 fish came out of the sand that were bigger than that fish. They hadn't seen any of them. They were all buried down. All they could see was their eyes after they had seen them move. These big fish want to feed at the same time. The 10-pounder that you caught all by himself, he just happened to be a greedy fish that wanted an extra bait, or you banged him right on the head, all right? If everybody's baits are in the water and you stimulate those fish that a school is coming through, you got 4, 5, 6 guys and they all got 2 baits on there, and they haven't seen a bait fish all day, and now they see 10, there's a real good chance you're going to see more than 1 rod go over. You're going to see 2, sometimes 3 rods. I have a friend that's real well known in Jersey. He's known for what they call the hovercraft. He doesn't do drifts. He pulls up, he stays at the wheel, he gets on the edge of the piece, 10 guys drop down at the same time, you never see 1 rod go over. 4, 5, 6 rods go over, because he's got 20 baits in the water, and the school of bait fish is right there on the corner. There's competition, they all start to chew at the same time. So you're fishing a tournament, and you're fishing a small little wreck that's only 30, 40, 50 feet. If 3 guys are out of the water, you really hurt the other 3 guys that are still fishing. So we try to make sure that everybody is up and ready to go. And, you know, I'll watch my fish finder. Sometimes we're going to drift over the wreck. Well, you don't want 3 guys hung up in the wreck. So I'll say, right now, bring them up 10 feet. And they'll bring them up 10 feet. We'll go over the top of the wreck, and I'm watching the fish finder all the time, and I'll say, drop them down right now. And it's crazy how many fish we catch right when the bucktails go right down on the edge of the ship, because those fish happen to be using that ship as a current break. The other reason that you want your drift into the current and the tide, wind and tide, you know, against each other can make tough fishing conditions. You want to be going in your boat drifting in the way that the tide is going. They're smelling your bait long before they see it. When you throw down current and you bring it back, even though the fish doesn't have to do that U-turn to follow your bait to eat it, because he's already laying into the current, but you can bounce it 3 feet away from him and he doesn't smell it. He smells those baits when they're coming in the current, going towards the fish. They smell that bait coming. They're ready to pounce on that bait. I'm sure everybody that's caught a fluke has gotten an instant bite, set the hook and thought, oh man, this is a monster. And all of a sudden it comes up 3, 4, 5 feet. Little fish. 18-inch fish, 20-inch fish, 22-inch fish. That fish never even came out of the sand to eat your bait. He was laying in wait and knew exactly when it was going to go and just went up a little bit. He never got uncovered with the sand. It's the only thing that makes any sense in that hit, because that same fish, when he's chasing a bait, when you catch it, you know that it's a smaller fish as soon as the rod bends over. It loads different. You know, almost sometimes guys go, that's not the fish that I hooked. It is the fish you hooked. You can still have buried in the sand. Any more questions? Go ahead.
How about you call it? What depth and like?
We were fishing 160 to 250 feet.
All right. What size bucktail are we using? 6 and 8.
Sixes and eights. This is a 5. This is a 6.
All right.
We were fishing 6s and 8s. Up there, they anchor a lot of times. They have,
So you're casting them?
well, actually just dancing it around the boat.
Huh.
They're violent. They're crazy, and it's up the couple places that we fished were a little bit different. The one place we would be catching rockfish up there, looked like a black largemouth bass, or you would catch the yellow eyes, which are orange. And you'd be catching, it'd be nonstop. And then all of a sudden you could stop getting bites. You knew that there was a halibut cruising because he just pushed all those other fish away. And then you just get a little more excited, and they would hit it. And most times they doubled the rod over, but I think because, unless you were fishing a swing hook, okay, when they would grab the baits that we used up there were solid hook at first. When they would grab the bait like this, I believe there's no way for you to hook that fish. Because when you're pulling, he's just holding the bait. We had fish go to the top, go to the bottom, come back to the top a second time, go over, and we were doing mostly releasing. We only wanted to kill one fish each trip, so we released a lot of halibut. And they would come up, and you would grab the line, and they would just open their mouth. The bait would just come out of their mouth. They were never hooked. And I fought that fish 600 foot of line worth. Saw them do the same thing with whole salmon carcasses. Fishing salmon carcasses on a circle hook. They would eat the whole carcass. You would fight a fish up and down. I have a couple of the videos on my pad. And you'd say, how can this be possible? They just don't want to let go of the bait. They don't know that there's a reason. They just think that thing's trying to go away. And as long as they're being glued to the boat, they didn't know. That was a lot of fun. We fished one place, it was like a nursery. It was all 25 and 30 pound halibut. Picture if it was 20 pound fluke that you're catching, it's the same thing. On fluke rods, it was really a lot of fun. Some more questions, guys. Come on, don't be afraid to ask.
So you fish a lot of structure, you said?
All structure.
All structure.
When I fished up in Raritan Bay, I fished a lot of channel edges, but I fished the structure on those channel edges. Jagged points, jagged corners, where there'd be bends in the channel, you know, pockets where you get like a deep dished area. When we fished Nantucket, we fished the shoals, you're fishing troughs.
Yeah, I mean, that's
So,
different up there. But
totally
I'm saying
different.
Structure-wise, are you drifting by the structure here?
Yeah, absolutely.
But beside it?
The best fish are caught right next to it.
Right next to it?
Right
Not
next to
in,
it.
Not like on top of it?
You can't.
But you just...
If you were to go on and get on a bigger ship that doesn't have a lot of holes, you could probably catch a lot of big fish on the top of that ship. But you got to be stuck on it so that you're not hitting the railings and stacks and other holes and stuff like that. Because when the divers go down there and they take pictures, fluke are laying on those things in spots that you would say, well, man, where that fluke is, how could he even feed? But he's got a spot where he doesn't have to worry about getting eaten by something else, a shark or whatever. But he's in a spot that every big fish that comes around him, he can eat in that spot. And they will use that ship structure just like a togwell.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that if you get on the down current side, and it's not always, sometimes they'll be on the up current side, but it's not as often. More likely on a drop off or something like that, you can have them on the front or the back side of that hill. But when you're fishing hard structure, rubble, whether it be rubble piles, a ship or whatever, the down current side, they're gonna lay behind that, just like a trout lays behind a rock.
Mm-hmm.
They're using that as a current break. They're getting, there's more velocity in the water that's coming around them that's causing a disturbance, and they're laying in that deader, cooler water, just waiting to ambush the stuff that comes around the corner. You really want to be as close to the edges of that as you can. With spot lock and being able to set up the drift modes on that now, we get right up really tight to that stuff.
Right.
Really tight. Because that's where they want to be. I've got a bunch of buddies that are commercial draggers. Where they catch fish and where we catch our fish, where they catch them in the net, and where we catch them with a hook, never the same place. He can say, there's fish on this mound right now. I've been there 3 days in a row. I do one drag and there's 1,500 pounds in there. And we go to that same spot in the sand on a sand hill. 6 guys go an hour later, like, they're not here, let's just get out of here. And he'll call me, he goes, you're done there? I'm like, yeah, I'm done there. And he'll do one drag and he'll say, I just caught 1,500 pounds. I say, why? When they're laying on those sand hills out in the middle of nowhere, they're not looking to feed, they're looking to rest. When they go into the structure and they go into the rock, and they, especially like Sea Girt Reef, Sandy Hook Reef, Axel Carlson Reef, when you're in the rock, those fish that are biting, they're there to feed. They came in, but at night, a lot of those fish don't stay there. They leave, they go south, and they go onto those dunes that are south of there. And that's where the netters, now they figured that out, they go there and they net for those fish at night after they left the rock. Because in the daytime, there wouldn't be any fish on that hill that he wants to fish. But when they're in the rock, they're in there to eat, because that's where all their food is. If you're not seeing bait occasionally on the screen, I mean, we all have areas where we go, man, we catch a lot of fish here. We fished it 4 times this year and didn't get a bite. I guarantee you it's because there was no bait there. When the bait shows up, whether it be late, maybe the bait was there a month early, maybe it's a month late, when you start seeing bait on your screen, you're gonna catch fish. Another part with that school effect, anybody that's fished like the Rattlesnake, Sandy Hook Reef, out between the Sandy Hook Channel, stuff in that area, the northern New York Bight, you see a bunker school working on the edge of the school, or on the edge of the channel, go fish underneath them. Those fish are nowhere near those bunkers, nowhere near them. They're 50, 60 feet down, but it lights them up. It lights them up. You drop your baits down, they think it's something that got eaten up there, dropped down, and you'd be really surprised how often there'll be something underneath those fish that you wouldn't expect. We used to go to Keyport. I used to take a bunch of my buddies' kids fishing, and they were tangle agents to the extreme, but they really wanted to catch fish. We would anchor up by the sailboats in Keyport, and I would get a net full of peanuts, slice the peanuts up into 3 pieces, and I would throw them, just like if you were chunking for a striped bass. I'll put a 1 ounce sinker on, drop down a live peanut, and the kids would go, oh, we're gonna catch fish. I'm like, you're gonna catch fish. And the father would be calling one of my buddies saying, hey, we gotta put him in a nut house. This guy's crazy. He's got us anchored for fluke. And then the kids' rods would go. What was happening? Conditions. Every single day on outgoing tide, the peanuts would get destroyed by the blues. And the big fluke, they weren't little fish, these were big fish. They'd be eating all the chunks. Well, they would swim to wherever the chunks were coming from, because that's where the bluefish bite was going on, and they're gonna eat all the pieces that the bluefish are dropping. All I did was stimulate that. Outgoing tide, it was crazy how many fish we caught doing that. So you gotta look at your conditions.
Now, was that fall time or like early September?
No, this was in the middle of the summertime. You could go drift that same channel coming out of Keyport and not get 1 or 2 bites. You could anchor up there and do that, and this is when it was an 8-man limit, or 8 fish per guy limit. You could limit out the boat in 1 hour to an hour and a half. Because the fish, that's how they fed. They fed when the bluefish fled. They were eating all scraps. Come on, it's your turn. You got a question. I know you do. Go ahead. Come on. How do you guys like the fluke?
Oh, what, catch him or eat him?
Well, no. How do you like to catch them?
Oh.
Do you bucktail? Do you live bait?
Yeah,
What do you
try to
do?
go as late as, that's why I was asking about scoping out. I try to stay as late as possible. But
Well, I want to stay as light as possible, but I want to be vertical.
yeah.
I don't want my bait, and I'm not going to say that there's not times that it's not, but I don't want the angle on my line more than that.
All right.
Okay?
I've
So
got
realistically, in
this
50
one.
feet of water, I'm probably 10 or 12 feet away. You're still going to get a lot of hits.
Yeah, but you're gonna lose a lot, like you said.
You're going to lose a lot of fish because you're not getting a good hook set.
Yeah.
You know, and The presentation, if I want to be a foot off the water, and I know that I have my bait like this, now granted, you got the boat is rocking or whatever, but I know that that's how high I am. I know that I'm in his eyesight and his strike zone the whole time. Big fish, little fish, for the most part, if you're catching 10, 12, 14-inch fish, lots of them, I wouldn't expect to catch an 8 or a 10-pound fish next to them fish. The reason being is those little fish are real fast. He doesn't like that competition. But if you want to see if there's a big fish there, and you're catching all little fish, bring your bait off the bottom more than you normally do. Bring it up 3 feet. That'll put the teaser at about 4.5 feet. And just see if you get any hits. Because what happens is the little fish that's fast, you know, it's like the young kid running against an old man like me, okay? That short burst, he starts running away, I can't catch him. Big fish, he can't catch him. But by the end of this room, I'm getting you. Okay, I don't care how fast you are, your legs are half as much. The big fish moves his tail once or twice and he's 3.5 feet off the water real fast. When we used to fish whole squid on a bobber float, just like you would striper fishing, our dropper was 3.5, 4 foot. Because if it wasn't, you'd get the head ripped off immediately by a little fish. But by getting it up higher in the water column where that fish, he effortlessly moves his tail once or twice, and he's 3.5 foot up in the water column, and he would eat the bait. Made a big difference. I wish I could have let this play without the music.
Is your ringer on?
I have everything off on it. What it said to me.
Yeah, I've played slideshows on my phone and we couldn't turn it on.
If you send it to somebody, but it says that if I just ask it to mirror that I could get my volume, I can't get my volume in here. They must have some kind of override in that. I'm going to have to ask them, because when I do it tomorrow, I want to play the slides. I'm not going to go crazy listening to that music, making guys try to listen to that over top of me. Help me out here. Come on. Throw me a question.
What you were saying about the structure on the downside drift, you always catch you were saying always catch the bigger fish. You might catch a
90%
short or
of the time.
something
Yep.
on the upside of it, but it seems like you're always, when you catch your bigger fish, it's always on that downside of the structure.
Yeah, he's smart.
Yeah.
He's in a current break.
Yeah.
You know, those other fish.
Like you're saying,
that
have
are closer
everybody
to the
ready
edge.
when you see that piece coming on the thing, like everybody be ready. Like you said, just reel
I mean,
up a
it's-
little bit. Because if you feel it's like it's going to start to stick, just
Yeah.
reel up a little bit. Just
Yes.
wait.
Well, I'm real. I never stop watching my fish finder.
Right.
I'm fishing all day long, watching that graph, knowing where
Right.
I am on the machine. You know, current electronics are so much better than the old stuff. The new charts, you know, you used to go up and mark a spot, and you'd say you'd have maybe 3 spots on there. You'd say, okay, I know that I have to drift in between here. Today's charts are so
Yeah, you can
good.
get-
I know exactly how my boat is laying on the ship, how I'm going across the ship, when it's right and when it's not right. It's really taking a lot of the guessing out when you're on those spots. Another thing I wanted to talk about is tackle. Almost everybody that I fish with, that we fish at tournaments, we're all fishing low profile reels on very light rods. But this rod's not a light rod. This rod will handle 8 ounces. The next up in this series will handle 12 ounces, and it's not any heavier than this. It feels like a largemouth bass rod. The days of fishing old, heavy-duty rods, unless you're a guy that likes fishing fiberglass, they're over, you know? You can fish this rod all day long, comfortably, relaxed, and it's...
What
it's
rod's
just-
that?
This is the Battalion 1220, so it's rated for line 12 to 20. This rod is fabulous for 4, 5, and 6 ounce bucktails. You could fish an 8. I normally go to a little bit different rod with the 8s and the 10s. I don't want my rod to get spongy. When I'm moving the rod tip, I want the bucktail to be doing what I'm asking it to do. So when I want it to be swimming along, and it's really hard to show you this without water current, but the water current makes this thing really look like a minnow that's feeding on the bottom. And then the other bait is just naturally gliding around on it, especially if there's not a lot of current. and it's moving like it's watching him. A lot of people catch many more fish on their teaser than their bucktail. And in my opinion, that just means your bucktail is too close to the bottom.
Yeah, it's dragging.
I would say I catch 80% on my bucktail. And the bucktail, just it's a better hookup when they're hooked on that.
So are you a Skinner method guy of jigging?
No, I will do that if I have a fish drop a bait. I'll try to mimic that bait just got upset. Oh, I got hit, I got hurt. Sometimes I just dead drop it. I hit the spool, let him just stop on the bottom. Just let it set. And it's in my mind, it's a second, it's probably a tenth of a second, realistically.
Yeah.
He just died, and the first thing I do is I jump that thing up hard. And then I'll try to swim it along, but then I'll drop it back to the bottom faster than what I had been doing before. That jigging method, that rapid stuff, you can get away with that with an ounce, ounce and a half, 2 ounce. You cannot do that with a 6 ounce bait. It falls like a stone.
Yeah.
So I don't want it to fall like a stone. I want it to drop in a relaxed, calm method.
Yeah, it seems like you use more like a wave method, like
Yeah.
more when you get to the big heavy, when you gotta use the heavy bucktails.
Okay, so one other thing I wanted to show you guys. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not. I got a couple minutes here yet. I saw Tim walked in already, but he'll probably give me a couple minutes. How many guys here largemouth bass fish? So you know what a drop shot rig is, right? So I got guys on a boat that want to cast around the structure. They'll catch occasional fish, but then I'll get somebody that really shouldn't be doing that wants to do it too. And they're like, well, we're not drifting, so let me try. And I'm like, well, how about you do this instead? So with a drop shot rig, you tie a drop shot rig just like they do for largemouth bass. Lightest sinker that you're going to need. It's going to probably be a 2 or 3 ounce if you're not moving. You tie a drop shot rig. Take 2 minutes and look at drop shot rig on YouTube so that you can see what it looks like in the water. But what happens is this is sitting here like this. Don't jig it, don't move it at all. What you do is you slacken your rod tip. So you're feeling the bottom so that you have that tight as can be. And all you do is you drop your rod tip. What it does is that bait dives. But it dives in a controlled descent because of its tail. So it goes like this. And then you just lift it up till you feel. You don't want the sinker to come up at all. You want to lift it just till the line is tight. He jumps back up. And what you've done is you've put that bait exactly up in the middle of his eyesight. And he sees it doing this and doing this, doing this, doing this. I'm telling you, on a slow day, when you're not moving, they will rip the rod out of your hands hitting that bait. And it's good for somebody that's not good at casting around. And if this is the edge of the boat, I don't want him casting over here. I can drop it right down here next to the edge of the boat and it just keeps dancing and dancing and dancing. It's the closest thing you're going to find to live bait for that, without live bait for that instance. And it's a real deadly method. Real deadly method. And there's not a lot of guys do it. The guys that do fish this, fish like in Shark River, Shrewsbury, real slack water around the bridges of the Verrazano. Very few guys fish this application, and you can't get any simpler than to tie a drop shot hook in on a dropper line and do that. And you can give that to any kid on the boat, and he'll probably outfish half the boat. It really works. If there's not any more questions, I'm going to wrap it up there so that the next guy can roll in. I'm sorry you guys didn't get to see more of these. I wanted to play these slides through. But
Thank you.
you can see we catch a lot of big fish.
Now what about a slow day? Up there at that green buoys at Shrewsbury Rock. Now, this guy that taught me how to fluke fish like a year ago.
Okay.
From work. He caught one short, I caught 3 shorts. And all of a sudden, 2/3 way through the day, he ups into a 10-4. So there's more than just that one 10-4.
Probably. Probably not.
No.
Probably not, but it takes a lot more for him to want to get up and eat if all of the other fish are there.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Captain Danny.
You're welcome, Jimmy.
Thanks, guys.